Hello, hello, hello. How's it going out there? Welcome to the weekend. Hope you're all doing well here on this Saturday. I'm really excited to get going today. We're going to do another round of the poster color paint. I haven't touched it since the last time that we set up. I mean, I've touched it in as much as I've opened them all up again and given them a nice stir, because I am still trying to revitalize a couple of the colors, but I'm really excited to get back into it because we had a lot of fun on that last stream last Saturday. So I think I'm pretty much set up and good to go. Let's switch it on over to the main screen. There we go. Got everything I need here, all of my paints laid out. I've got my Ninja Turtles ruler up here. I've got my water dish ready to go. I don't think the water dish was properly in view the last time I did this, so I really want you to be able to see when I'm dipping into that. I've got my palette here because my plastic, while it arrived, my desk covering plastic I've not yet set up. It came rolled up in kind of like a crinkly way, so it's got a sort of wave pattern that I need to iron out a little bit before I actually put it on my desk, but that shouldn't be too much of a pain. Got my brushes over here, which I'm going to now just dip in early. We're going to be doing a bit of a sketch first, of course, but I want my brushes to be fully primed and ready to go, so they're ready to accept the water. Hello, I'm doing well. I had a very productive week. Just ate some Skittles, so I'm feeling a little hyper, which is, we'll see how long that lasts before I crash. It's a very satisfying water drop here on the palette. Right down here. So it doesn't look as cool on camera, but from my angle, it's very globular. It looks like a Studio Ghibli tear. Very big, very chunky. So all my paints are pretty much the right consistency to get started. I've got my reference ready to go for once. It was actually a photograph that I took. When did I take it? Yesterday? It must have been yesterday. I guess I should send a tweet out to Twitter to let them know that we are back at it once again. But I'm excited to paint this one. It's another very serene winter scene. I'm hoping that it's going to be kind of my send-off to winter. So it thawed. It got very nice and warm here for spring. I mean, it's still Canada. But winter is winter, and it came back. So we have a lot of snow on the ground currently. Not a lot, but enough to cover it. So I'm still mentally grappling with that fact, and I'm hoping that the painting today will be kind of a farewell to what we've got. Hello, good evening. Good evening. So I've got my big watercolor brush here, which I've just cleaned. Mutt Ninja, thank you so much for that sub. I'm going to be using this just to apply the water to the paper. I think something I realized about this brush, when I first bought it, I was like, maybe I'll do large format watercolor painting. And I might still someday, but it's not something I'm really interested in, it turns out. I thought maybe back then I would be, but I like painting not a lot bigger than this size. Even though I love watching demonstrations on YouTube of people using big brushes like this. But instead, what I would like to do with this brush is just keep it nice and pristine and clean and use it primarily to apply big washes of clean water. onto the paper. Because also something I've learned is this is a devil of a brush to clean. It's really, really difficult to get down into the bowels of the beast. Pigment just likes to stay in there. So even if it looks clean, if the bristles look clean, sometimes you'll dip it in water and some like fugitive pigment will be lodged in there and it'll seep in and it'll, just put some unwanted color, which is slightly what happened the last time that I did this demonstration. Which is what it is. It was really on me for not noticing. But I want to keep this paper towel handy because we'll be using this to blot in just a moment. But first I'm going to sketch. I'm going to do a little bit of light sketching. The paint is very thick, so it'll be going over the surface, so it doesn't really matter if I sketch even darkly in light areas, because the paint is pretty thick. And what I want is to establish the dark areas of this painting. And I also want the subject to not go... The paint will go all the way to the edges. That's just how it is. But I want the subject to be contained in the center, just in case it's something I'm actually trying to get better at, because eventually, if I get this framed or whatever, or if the person that eventually has this painting gets it framed, the mat or the frame would cover some of the edge. So generally, you want to keep the subject more contained into the middle. So I'm going to try my best to do that. We'll see how well it goes. So how's everyone doing out there? Is anyone working on anything today? Are folks taking it easy, which is also fantastic for the weekend? I'm mostly taking it easy this weekend. I tend to really go in on work on Fridays, like just absolutely put the pedal to the metal, so that on Mondays, when I'm feeling very tired, I'll be able to coast a little bit on anything that I have lingering from the week before. I find that to be a pretty helpful technique for myself. I mean, I can't, certainly no work expert. Oh, heck yeah, Redbird. That's what I like to hear. It's really funny because of the way that I have the gain set up. You can't actually see these light marks that I'm putting down, but trust me, there's some sketching going on here currently. Perhaps I should make some more with the talking, because it doesn't actually look like I'm putting down much at this point. Actually, I'd like to reconfigure some of the bottom half of this painting. Thankfully, since you can't really see these marks, you'll never know what I'm changing until the painting emerges. But I do want to go pretty dark with some of my values on this one, and then leave other parts atmospheric. I want to capture a glow, especially where the snow is concerned. I mean, it's one of the nicest things that snow does. There are a host of bad things that snow does, but one of the good ones is glows prettily. And just like last week, we're going to have some foreground trees. Specifically, one really bold one in the foreground here. It's kind of taking up the entire side of the frame. Really want this one to be loud. Because the rest of the trees are very sinewy, very subtle. So, since I know that you can't super see all the stuff that I'm sketching right now, what it basically is the embankment alongside the river near my house. And it's very beautiful in all seasons, honestly. I've taken so many photographs of it across the different seasons because it feels like it's a different universe in every single season. But in winter, it's especially beautiful because it becomes this very dark body of water surrounded by super duper light areas of snow. And so I'm drawing both sides of the bank, and on either side there's kind of a different flavor, because on one you're obviously seeing down, like there's a blind crest where you can't see the embankment down to the water. So it's a lot lighter here where the snow is moving forward, but it's also late in the day, so there's these long shadows being cast across the snow, creating that really beautiful dark blue color. One of my personal faves. I'm going to very lightly sketch in where that is because that's vital to the look of the picture. There'll be these spots of darkness. It's actually a lot like painting mountains, this picture, except a very different shape language, but absolutely similar color schemes. Dark areas where the ground peeks through, you know, the cold rocks and the dirt that lead down into the water. The dark water, of course, which is this entire area here. But then also those light areas where the sun is hitting the snow. And the really nice thing about this photograph specifically is I took it at a time of day where then above that light area of snow, there's all these shadows cast by trees that are over here. So it's like dark, light, no, really dark, medium dark, super light, dark shadows, and then trailing off. And so you get a lot of those kind of textural points and points of interest that'll grab attention. And I need to think about it in simple terms like that in order to keep track of all these tiny, tiny, tiny little details, because many of them are so minuscule and might otherwise be intimidating to approach as a painter, because you see it and you're just like, oh, there's too many little things to possibly paint, to possibly capture. But you don't have to capture everything. Just trying to capture like the essence of how it feels. As long as you get those big planes of light and dark, then you can just go in at your leisure and pick away at the medium values. There's another sort of big patch of light between the tree shadows back here. And then as it goes back, it fades into various large trees. And the large trees, it's actually kind of a complement piece to the one I was doing last week, which is another reason why I chose this subject, because it's the same area that I painted last week, except this time I'm looking down and last time I was looking up at the trees. It's at a very different time of day though, so it doesn't have those like sunset hues. This is like late afternoon, so you just get kind of the last remnants of the blue from the day sky. So I'm roughly marking in where some of these trees go. And then there are big foreground, or mid-ground trees, I guess. So there's this one tree right down in the bank that eventually turns into one of the trees that I painted last week, but it's the bottom of the structure. Hello, welcome in. How has my game plan changed from last Saturday's poster adventures? It's pretty similar, honestly. Marking in the large areas of light and dark. I think this painting will be different in that there are a lot more measured areas of contrast in this painting than there were in the last one. The last one was very nebulous, and it was a lot of made-up color and light. And while I will be changing a lot of the color schematics of this picture, just because I know I have that kind of leeway with the poster colors, for the most part, the values I would like to keep similar. So I'm going to try to make that water nice and dark and really make the trees in front pop against that. I love having, again, I know you can't see it super well yet until I put the paint down, but the water is such a dark area. And then having the mid of the shadows on the other bank and then the really bright snow on top. I think it's really going to pop quite dramatically when I have these trees painted in front of the entire thing. Something I really like is painting something that otherwise you would think as being a centerpiece. Like I could just paint the river and that would be fine. The colors are dynamic, especially against the snow. But what I'm really doing is making that the backdrop of something that I find more interesting, which is how the trees kind of cut vertical lines across the entire landscape. And they almost make like a barcode hashing of light value on dark value. Now, whether or not I can capture that perfectly, we'll see. Again, it's, this is all studies and fun. We're trying to try our very best to push ourselves and, continue to work in this medium that I am still very unfamiliar with, other than an appreciation from afar. But that's what makes it exciting. This poster color is so similar to what I use almost every day. But it's different enough in significant ways that I can't just rest on my laurels with it. And I can't treat it the same way that I do gouache. You can up to a point. But poster color really, it gives you so many secret options that it feels like a disservice to not take advantage of those. So that's what I'm going to try to do, especially when it comes to doing final details. It's occurring to me now that I totally forgot to do a follow-up tweet and let people know that we are painting, but there's never been a better opportunity than right now when I finished my sketch. So I'm going to take a photograph, say cheese. All right. Now I'll make a little tweet. Funny thing is, I'm always so adamant about doing this, But I don't think that many people actually come here from my Twitter announcements. It's just something I feel like obligated to do and that I should do. But I'm pretty sure for the most part, people come here through like Twitch notifications. Which frankly, I'm pretty excited about. Like, I like that so many people on here are just on board. Makes me feel good about the channel. All right, I've done the tweet. We are good to begin. I've got my sketch here. I can't wait for you to actually be able to tell. Yeah, it's not going to autocorrect because I have autocorrection off. For good reason. We need it to be white balanced for later. All right. Yeah, I definitely do like to stick with the schedule. I think it's good to stay pretty regular on that. Which is what I try. I try my very best. It's not always easy, but always try to get live on the hour. All right, here we go. Bravery. So we wet down the surface liberally. It's wild how much water this brush can hold. I really notice it when I put it into the water container because the level of the water goes down visibly, which is intense. So I need to make sure that this thing is fully saturated. Flip it over and do the same to the back. And you really need to go all in on the water. It's bonkers. It feels wrong when you do it, but this is what you're supposed to do. You kind of have to scrub it in some spots because there are areas where maybe your fingers touched it, and so your natural hand oil can sometimes create a resistant patch. But you need to make sure that you really saturate the paper. Now we'll try to get it in position on camera. Hey, thanks for the Prime sub, Pax Mac. I appreciate that. Okay, nice even distribution. And I'll just clean up some of this water from the outside. We're gonna make a mess no matter what, so let's go. So now I'm going to get my palette going. Now for the initial pass, I just need shadow color. So I'm going to make a couple of different blues. Be doing a light and a darker blue. Okay, so this is going to be like here. And then up here. And then I just need to mix that with some white. And a little bit of pink. Now I want it to be a little more faded, a little more white, and slightly more pink in the background. I have to do this part pretty quick before the paper starts to dry. can also use it here, this area. Fronley Fern, thank you so much for those subs for the community. I appreciate that. Very generous, thank you. And another big boost to our goal. I actually forgot to put the title on the goal. That was my bad. I might do that during the break, but there's supposed to be text above the giveaway thing that says, you know, every 50 subs we do an art giveaway. So I'll be sure to put that on during the stretch break today. But I will say we finished our follower goal for March, so I will be doing a giveaway today. Somebody in chat today is going to be getting some art. We'll be doing that at near the end of the stream. So now I'm cutting across little patches up here where I want the light to be shining through. And it'll be kind of an alternating pattern between the light and the dark. And then down here, a little bit darker. And so the reason why you want it so wet at the initial is because it kind of blends itself together in a very cool way. It sits rigidly on the surface of the water, which is wild. It's very unlike other paints that I've used in that regard. Yeah, the area down at the very bottom of the page is already dried, which is unfortunate. So I'm trying to add some more of those nice blurry shadow effects. So I need to go back in and add some more of that water. Hey there, Evie. Yeah, the middle of the page is already dry. It's so tough doing this in the winter because the paper dries so fast. I'm going to go ahead and add some water back. I need to add the watercolor. So I'm going to get a little bit of brown, kind of the grayish highlights. I need some purple and some blue. So as far as the workability when the paint is dry, it's a little bit workable. It definitely more so than like an acrylic wash. It's water-based, so. But the finish when it's dry on the page is a little chalky, it's really hard to describe without making it sound like bad paint or cheap paint. But it doesn't feel like watercolor gouache. Which makes it very interesting to work with. In the beginning stages, when you want to get all these blended colors, you have to work very, very quickly, which is a bit intense. When you see like the pros do it, they're just flying through and they make it look so easy. But it's very, very tricky. But the nice thing is, it has an incredible opacity, And the reason why it's used so much in animation is it's a lot easier to make fixes, especially because the color that you put down on the page, and this is what makes it very different from gouache, the color that you put down tends to be the color that you see in the end product. And that's vital, because with things like gouache, the color will shift quite a bit. And these parts down here, I'm just sketching in lightly. Hey, thank you so much for the cheer. I appreciate that. Very kind. So we want to put some nice dark colors in here, especially at the bottom where it meets the top edge where it goes over the crest. That part's going to be really important because it will sort of determine how bright we perceive the top of this hill here. So I want that to be some of the darkest in the painting. And especially down here and around this bench. And I want to get the kind of feeling of some movement in the water, so I'm pushing around some of the water in here just to make the appearance of some dark waves. And some of these things will show up later on once we actually get into painting a little more opaquely, because the whole thing is not going to be done with this super wet wash. We're just trying to get as many kind of little blooms and things like that as possible. Because going back over with opaque light colors on these shadows that we've done, like that's going to be where a lot of the effect of the light on the snow will shine through. So we go back in with the pink and the blue. Really focus in some of these shadow areas. Now we'll just soften this up a little bit. So now I'm starting to go in with more opaque colors. Just going to move these brushes off to the side here. And with these, I'll be able to get more depth in the piece. To deepen, especially a lot of these background colors here. Let's deepen some of these shadows, things like that. And it's important to get a lot of these vertical lines in place because that implies so much of the surface and so much of the perspective because it's moving, back into the background. And I really need those things to be established strongly because they'll do a lot of the heavy lifting later on because I'm not going to go super in depth in the background. I'm just going to put in some trees and stuff back there. But I need at the glance the viewer to know that it's moving backwards into the environment. I'll get some darker shadows over here. And working up and around these trees, that will become much more prevalent elements, just like with the last painting that I did in this style. Hey, thanks for the fish. Thank you for 3 months. Generally speaking, the split dish is clean water, dirty water, but there is a certain tipping point during the painting when I need just one dish to be slightly cleaner than the other. It doesn't really matter that there's a little bit of paint water in there. And then once that reaches an even further point where they're both fully, saturated with pigment, then I'll go switch the water out. But generally speaking, up top in my paintings is when I really need there to be totally clean water. That is essential for the beginning of a painting for me, just with the style that I use for a lot of my paintings. It's going to be so satisfying later on when I come back through a lot of these shadow spots with white paint and sort of deepen where a lot of the light comes down through these areas. For now, I'll go down here and just start working on where the shadows fall down into the water area. And this is a lot of the stuff that is more foreign to me when it comes to painting a picture because I'm not used to being able to just go in and opaquely paint over spots. I'm not used to that at all. But that's kind of what this type of paint affords you, is the opportunity to go back. Now you still need to have quite a bit of forethought when you come into a painting like this. because otherwise, you know, the whole thing's going to be a very muddled idea. Yeah, I'm definitely a huge fan of synthetic brushes in general. I mean, I came into painting very uneducated about all of that stuff, and to a large extent I still am. It's just kind of the nature of trying to figure it out for myself over the years, but I've had a lot of really good success with synthetics. Now, for my calligraphy brushes, these are natural, horse and deer. It's deer in the core and horse on the outside. These brushes from Japan. And these are really good because they have that kind of pliability, but they also contain, like they have the ability to snap back because the deer is very sturdy, but the horse is very pliable and it's very loose and also a very like thirsty type of hair. Like it soaks up that water. So it can hold water for a very long time, which is essential if you're working on projects where you need to constantly go back in and adjust. So you're not always dipping back into the water. Just something I find I need to do more with my synthetics. Yeah. You can lead a horsehair brush to water and you can make it drink. Because it loves to. Okay, I'm going to get a big amount of... Something I've learned with the poster colors is you cannot skimp. You got to go all in on the pigment. So now I'm going to do some correction on where the hill meets the water. Jolly Does Art. How you doing? Hello, Raiders. Welcome in. Make yourselves at home. Hope you're doing well today. Let me go a little bit more warm tone with these foreground shadows, just to differentiate them a bit more. Hello, hello, hello. Any tips for learning how to manage water when it comes to gouache? My number one tip is the most infuriating of all. So you can probably already guess what it is, but truly, it's just doing a lot of painting, like a lot of painting, and figuring out how it feels. Because so much of it is a tactile sensation. Eventually, you just get used to knowing. Can already tell I'm going to be using a lot of white. Later in this painting. Okay, let's put some real kick into this water. I see it's almost dry now. There's a couple of spots where it's not quite there yet, but we can deal with that when we get to it. So for the shadows of the water, I want to go with a really deep warm color. So I'm going to mix into my burnt sienna. I'm going to use a big bunch of it. And then I'm going to grab some dark purple blue. Dip into the Prussian. I decided today to actually organize the paints across my desk in some semblance of color grouping. Now I need to take some of the moisture out of my brush so that I'm using an opaque mixture and not a watered down transparent mixture. always tremendously satisfying cutting into these spaces with some negative painting. Just working around them and finding the areas of contrast. Make the light really push through, you know? Now I do want to kind of smudge in some sky color up here, because even though this is a really dark area, it's kind of being lit ambiently by the mass of snow, like that reflected light. And it is a little funny doing things like this, knowing knowing that a lot of it will be covered up. But it is important to get a lot of the stuff behind correct, at least in my mind. I think it's also one of those things that will come with more practice, is eventually you just understand which things intrinsically will be covered up. And then you don't even bother painting them. But I love the way when you paint in these dark masses and then all of the light masses, suddenly it's like, oh, there's actual movement in the water. Like these are the light waves. And then I'll put in a few highlights as well. That dark Prussian blue with the burnt umber, such a pleasing combination. Bit of magenta in there, a little bit of red, kind of offset a lot of those cold colors. Prussian blue is so strong. It really holds up against a lot of other pigments. That's better. So I need to mark out where some of this tree is. Helps me balance the picture a little bit better. Okay, I shouldn't paint the rest of that. I have this impulse because of digital art that I could just paint the rest of that tree, but it would cause me a ton of headaches when I try to put more detail onto the embankment over there because I would be constantly painting around it, and that's no good. Okay, so I'm going to mix together some pink and blue and white. But I'm going to lean heavily onto the pink with this. Just a little bit of that blue, because the blue is what I've been using for the foreground, the midground, and a lot of the background shadows. So I want to mix up the color combination a little bit. Put in some of that magenta as well, and just a touch of the ochre. Just to dull it out a little bit because we want it to be a little more desaturated as it goes into the background. Then I'll go back here and paint in some trees. And I'll work my way back to front. Now I don't want to do all the trees this color. I want to, switch it up as I go. So I'm trying to be mindful of that and have the colors change up a little bit as it makes its way over to the side. So now I can go in with a bit of a deeper blue. So without the color variation, it'll feel extra like false or fake. little bit more of the white. I can definitely see why this paint is used so much in animation because you get so many like corrections that you need to do. Obviously back then you wouldn't have as many shots at correcting because, you know, you're trying to rush these things out the door then and now. But you would need to get it right pretty close to the first time because you'd only have so many chances before the painting becomes completely muddied and like unusable. But this paint is very forgiving. Like you can mix together this sort of fuzzy, hazy color back here, and I could just paint over as if I was using an eraser digitally. Since I know I'm going to be using a lot of darker, more realistic colors, I'm kind of going a bit wild in the background and using, for the mids here, something a little more high saturation, something a little more like fantastical. It's because I think I can get away with it. Something that is tripping me up, I will say, going from gouache to this, is that thing we were talking about earlier about water amounts on the brush. It's different between gouache and poster color. In general, I want less paint on my brush than I would if I was doing a gouache painting, and it's very difficult to track. So I guess it's a good thing that I'm doing these streams. So I definitely need practice hitting the right amounts. Feels like kind of a delicate balance. Especially up top, I need a lot of water on the paper, but I don't need a lot of water on the brush. And I thought it would be like a perfect inversion as the painting goes along, the paper gets dry. You know, you need more water on the brush to keep it moving. But it turns out that that's not quite the case, and it's a bit of a back and forth to figure out exactly how much I need. Oh, that's so nice to hear. I really like it whenever somebody picks up a new art supply or tries something out. It's one of my favorite things to do whenever I'm able. Let's try out a new thing. Because you never know if it's going to end up being like your thing, like your forever thing. I had no idea when I tried gouache that that's what it was going to be for me. It's just like, oh, I'm going to be using this for the rest of my life. Which is exciting. Thank you, Anonymous, for gifting that sub. Please enjoy your sub brutality. I'm going to bring some of the color back to the blue, because I will be needing this. Need to resist the urge with every fiber of my being to paint the foreground, like the mid-foreground trees on top. I can't do it until the end. I have to go in visual order. Otherwise this whole sand castle will fall down. So that's that one. That's that one. I was really, really pleased with how the painting came out last week. So much so that I decided just to keep it and hang it in my house. But also as kind of a testament to trying a new thing and sticking with it. It's not too often that I keep my own work. And you can see as an example over here just how opaque this paint is. How it just goes right on top. It would not be as easy to do an application like this with gouache. You could do it, but it would take at least a couple of passes to get the color to show up as vividly, which is really cool. It's kind of like if acrylic had its staying power, but it had the like thinnable property. Kind of like using acrylic with, like you can use acrylic with really nice mediums to get very nice effects that are kind of similar. But the workability and the vividity also of this stuff is pretty bonkers. Which, to be clear, acrylic in the long term is better if you have to like put a better label on it, because acrylic has light fast properties. Like you can have an acrylic painting and keep it for a very long time and it won't change in the sun, whereas this is not light fast. It's not meant to be hung on a wall in sunlight. You can hang it and you can preserve it, but usually you want to keep it in the dark. Like a lot of these things, especially for backgrounds in animation, they'll put them into storage drawers to hold on to them if they decide to. A lot of productions just throw them away at the end of production, but so I want this to be a lot more purple. So we've got a lot of blue on that side. It would look better if it was grayed out, so I'm going to put some of this French gray as well. Yeah, it's a weird thing, Pluto-Star, because back in the day especially, I mean, the anime industry, even prestige stuff like Studio Ghibli, like it wasn't seen as important to hold on to that stuff. I'm sure they loved it in the moment, but it was all about the practicality. You know, the drawers are full, we have to get rid of them because we're making more movies and we need the space kind of thing. But the Japanese video game industry is very much the same way in terms of not being precious about it, because back then it wasn't cool to like that stuff. You know, you would be like an extreme hobbyist if you were an otaku back then. Like, people didn't know that people wanted that stuff. That's why they like threw away the code to Final Fantasy VIII. That's why, you know, a lot of this stuff gets lost to time if it doesn't get preserved by people, because they, not in a million years did they think someone's going to want this, you know, 47 of 930 background that we painted for this production. It just wasn't really considered cool to like that stuff. And now here we are in an age where, especially with digital, you would just expect things to stay around. You know, nothing dies on the internet sort of thing. So people that grow up in the internet age are just like, what do you mean you threw them away? What do you mean I can't access them anymore? But a lot of that stuff is just gone, which is why I'm so excited when I'm able to like get an original background from a production, because a lot of that stuff just isn't around. All right, I need to spread out the little bristles so I can get some nice effects on here. Okay, now the bankment should be dry enough that I can start putting in the darker features. So I'm going to go ahead and grab... Wow, I haven't stirred the black paint in a little bit. The top of it is kind of like... you know when pudding gets a skin on it? That's kind of what this paint does. It's very pudding-like, this paint. So I'm going to go in with warm colors for the rocks, but I'm going to mix it pretty dark. And then I'm going to offset it with the dark blue. A bit too much water in the mix. I'm glad that I can start to recognize that now, like how much water's actually getting into the combination. I don't want it to be too wet. And I also don't want it to be too dark because, again, we're working from front or back to front, light to dark, more focus in the foreground. So I want to save the absolute darkest colors for this tree here and some of the like water elements and things like that. But overall, I want to glow, because everything is what do they call it? Ambient occlusion, when surfaces are reflective in their light. It's a term that I learned from video games. It's one of those little payoff moments where I've been waiting so long to add these dark areas into the paintings. I'm really just relishing putting all these little guys in here. And then we'll work around them. Some of our little finishing touches. It's all about adding these areas of darkness that we can then add medium colors around and work our way back up to the light, and back and forth it goes. Oh yeah, Redbird, that's cool with me. So doing this area in here is kind of like doing the negative painting again. I'm just adding in spots around spots. So anywhere that I'm not painting is kind of where the snow is on top of the rocks. So I have to keep that in mind because the shapes are kind of important for something like that. Or would create these sort of concave and convex sort of areas where the movement goes through. Now I will be enhancing a lot of these places by using white paint later on. For now I need to establish where all the rocks are peeking through. It's like a little piece of gold leaf or something on there. It's weird. Now I'm switching away from the dark that I previously mixed, which was a blue and brown. Now I'm going over to a green and red, which is another way to mix a really good sort of neutral dark. I want to make sure I have lots of pigment here. So there's kind of this fallen tree over here, but it's not fully detached from the ground. It's, you know, sticking out, so it's got snow on top of it as it goes out and along. It's definitely one of the details that really stuck out to me. But I need that to fully dry before I put any snow on top of it. So I'm going to take that same color . I'm trying to keep my hand pretty high up because I want these strokes to be random. Whenever I do bark, I like to have a lot of randomness to the look of it. Even though I'm trying to paint with precision, I mean, that's the combination that really gives you natural effects. That combination of random movement and control that creates the quiet chaos of nature. Yeah, trying to like manually put randomness into a thing can be a losing battle, which is why it's so important to hold up high, because the randomness comes from your jitters. It comes from your like body not being able to keep it perfectly steady. And then the brush does the randomness, while your hand tells it where to go. So the hand telling it where to go is me going up and down this tree, but along the way the brush is like wee and going all over the place. And that's where the randomness comes in. It's kind of like trying to focus a very powerful laser. Okay. Well, I'm going to take a quick break to stretch, get more water. Also I should add text to my overlay thing. Let me do that now. Let's see. Goals. I'm going to move this up. And then, because I definitely remember how to do this, I will do it. Text. New text. Okay, font style regular, and the text simply says... art giveaway every 50 subs. And then I need to change the color of the text. I'm very happy that there's a little color picker thing inside OBS, so I don't have to insert the color manually, because I want it to match, you know? All right. And then, whoop. Beauty. Art giveaway every 50 subs. Okay. Let's do a little stretch. Put you on the stretch page, which I'm going to be redoing the stretch page, the Be Right Back page, which I don't really use that often. And my intro screen is going to be the big one. I'm going to be working on that very soon to have a brand new animation for the intro screen. All right, so I'm going to go change out the water, get water for my body, and also do a stretch. So I'll meet you back here in 5 minutes. right. Still so much to go on this. I'm very excited, though. Well, actually not too much more to go. I could probably finish it in the next maybe half hour, 40 minutes. Let's see how it goes. I've got nice, clean water for now. All right. So for the trees, no, we're still not done with the embankment. I keep forgetting. I need to go in with some opaque white. A sketch prompt request. Very fun. I will absolutely do that. I have the perfect time to do it too. When I finish the light highlights on this embankment, I need to let it dry before I can actually do the mid-ground trees, because I'll be painting the trees up over them. So that is exactly when I will do that sketch prompt request. Well, see you later, TL. Thank you for stopping by. Now we're in the phase where it wants to curl up. And I've learned that eventually that the impulse of the paper to curl will go away if you just let it sit. I love adding these tiny little details. And some not so tiny details. Some of these are pretty bold. These light highlights where the sun is sort of dappling down across the rocks are vital to the overall appearance of the piece. And this is where I can really define a lot of these planes and shapes and things like that That'll better help establish kind of the three-dimensionality of that embankment on the other side of the river. Oh, this is the part I've been waiting for. I'm so excited. Okay. I need to not be overzealous. I need to take my time with this and actually do it properly, but I've been really excited to paint the top of this tree. Okay, so that takes care of all the white areas, and now I got to mix down to a really, really light blue. And this will be the lightest parts that aren't sunlit, but are still in the shadow. And these areas are vital because I left a lot of spots purposefully blank because they were so complex. But now I need to like kind of negatively paint around those spots to better establish areas along that, I was gonna say coastline, but that's not what it is. The riverside, I guess. Because there are some planes there that are still too complicated for what they actually are, and there are others that aren't complicated enough, so I need to strike that balance. Make sure we get lots and lots of fluffy, snowy areas in here. This area back here is especially important because there is areas of cascading snow and shadows that go behind this tree that I'm painting in. I also need to put in the shadowy snow that lays on top of this tree. Feels so good to have that tree finally laid in. I've been waiting to do that for the whole painting. Okay. So I think I've done everything I want to do on the embankment. Just like looking back and forth. There's some things that I can shore up. I'll put a little bit more highlight on that tree. So I'm going to let that dry, and while I do, I'm going to do that sketch request. I've got my pre-cut card from the last time we did one. The real question is, where's my pencil? This pencil loves to run away on me. There we go. So let me go on over to my stream manager. Miss Revis and Miss Magius. Okay, I'm gonna Google those because all I know is that they are Pokemon. Mr. Evis. Oh, happy spring, by the way, in the Northern Hemisphere. Happy autumn if you're in the Southern Hemisphere. Respectively, we've made it out of the extreme seasons. It doesn't feel like spring here because we got another snowfall, but I think there are warmer weather on the way. Or there is warmer weather on the way. Okay. Mr. Evis. And you turn into Miss Magius. Couple of witchy Pokemon. We love to see it. Let's see if I can tutorialize as I go here. Maybe I'll try to zoom in just a skosh. Just a skosh. Properties. Zoom. I couldn't zoom in that much, but that's okay. So these both appear to be, well, let me check their sizes first. Oh, they're almost the same size, which is really interesting. Miss Magius looks a lot taller than Mr. Evis, but they're both orbular for a start. And one of them has a very big hat. To start drawing Miss Magius, you have to first draw Saturn and then work backwards. So once you finish drawing, this is going to be a tutorial. Once you finish drawing Saturn, then you draw Saturn's hat, which Saturn of course has. And then the sort of ear spikes that Saturn's hat has that we all know about. I think there was a probe near Saturn recently that captured some of this, captured the essence of the hat. It was not until very recently that astronomers found out about Saturn's hat. But now it's just kind of like common knowledge. They changed all the textbooks. And then the brim. And then there's a big, fun, floofy dress, which I can only fit some of on this, because I am not a good planner. Just as I was drawing these spooky Pokemon, I heard a crow outside. I was like, was that part of the song? But nope, the crows are back and they're angrier than ever. Celebrating my spooky drawing. Okay, and then we've got Mischievous, who's a little more amorphous and mostly cool hair based. They've got a fun little necklace. And there they are, little friends. Just hanging out, having a nice time. Well, I'll tuck that safely away. And this should be dry-ish. Yeah, that feels mostly dry. The poster paint dries very fast, which is great. Yet another reason why they would want to use it in production. Any of the superficial pigment that gets into the other pots, if it's like a really, really like ridiculous color, like for some of them, like putting a red into a red, like I don't care. But you can just take a little, where is it? I take this little guy and then I just go whoop and I, scrape off that little tiny bit and then I just remove it. But also, the pigment is unbelievably dense inside these pots. It's not loose at all. So if you give it a stir, the pigment will overpower anything else that's on it. It won't like change color unless there's very little left in the pot. Okay, so we've got a pretty dry paper here. I'm gonna need more paper towel. Okay. More paper towel. Because I need to really control the amount of water that I'm gonna be using for this next part. So I'm going to go ahead and add in the trees that are in the midground here, which has been a long time coming. So let's get to it. Let's get a little bit of blue, a little bit of purple. Brown. Get some red in there. I'm going to mix down to a nice, deep, dark, kind of chestnutty color. And I can go back and forth from there, lighter and darker as I go. So now finally, after all these years, I can go back to this tree that I was starting to paint up over everything, and I can actually go through now. Complete the transaction. So for most of these trees, what I'm going to be doing is laying in a dark foundation and then opaquely painting light colors over top. I'm really excited for one of the brushes that'll be showing up next week, because it's basically this brush here. It's the exact same brand company, but it's this size. I got the size down, and then I also got the size up. So I'll be able to do a lot of these really tight details with the poster color more effectively without having to push my nerves to the limit trying to use, you know, these ones here. Because I can get a pretty thin line with these. If I was working at full production size, which is not quite double this, but maybe like another half size larger of paper, this wouldn't be so bad for doing those tiny little details. It's all about how big you work. Because if you size up, then suddenly all of your big brushes are good for details. And also, I just need to practice more with my calligraphy brushes. You know, practice is a huge part of having a deft hand, and I'm still kind of a heavy presser, which I'm trying to work at. Okay, so that's those two. I've got two, and then there's a huge trio of three, and then another two, and then one. So those are kind of like my main objective trees right now. So this one's down here. It's going to be very satisfying to lay all of these in after waiting for so long. Finally have them all in place. So when I'm putting in these trees, what I tend to like to do is set a bit of a guideline. So I kind of put the tree in a really tiny state. So thinly sort of mark where the tree is going to go. and then I can go back in and fully flesh out exactly where the tree is going to go. Okay, so I'm not going to do the third one in this set, only because these two over here are actually... they're behind this third one. So there's two trees slightly further down the bank, and then this one is going to be in front of those. So I'm not going to bother putting that one in until the other two are ready. So I'll get some colors here. I'm going to go blue, purple, a little bit of French gray. I think today's the first time I've actually dipped into my French gray, which is fun. I'll get a bit of that brown. A little tap of white. Some yellow ochre. Feels like it needs to be a bit warmer. That's pretty close. Okay. Now I have to commit to the sin of covering up that really fun tree that I was looking forward to. And thank you for gifting that sub, Lion. Have I ever finished a container of paint and repurposed to hold small nails or something? I've definitely done that with other things. Marker containers, that like old markers that eventually got drained. I repurposed those containers for certain. I've never finished a pot of the poster color yet. Now that I'm actively using them, eventually they will run out. So I'll be ready for when that time comes. And I probably will reuse the container for something. I'm going slightly off of the photograph here because I feel like this, having another mid-ground tree in this spot, is going to hold down a lot more of the dark value that I want over on this side as a point of interest. I'm going to go back over this tree with this middle value that I've been using for these ones. Still can't put that leaning. There's a big leaning tree that goes across all of these that I'll probably put on as the last thing. So more or less what I'm doing now is waiting until all of these trees are dry, and then I can go over with my highlight color to give them the finishing touch to really make them pop, because this is a picture from late in the day, so the sun is way over here, and it's casting all of those background shadows from the trees. So over on this side of these trees, on the left-hand side of them, there's going to be a very strong lighting. In the meantime, I can go darken up the foreground tree over here, which is the closest thing to the camera, and I can also finally start working on the bench down here. I'm going to grab some of this light sort of sky color, like muted sky color over here. Just because I do want some lightness on this side. It needs to be counterbalanced because, again, the sun is over here shining very strongly, and this tree is not immune from that. There is a lot of very strong lighting on this side that I'll be painting in and highlighting. And because of that, I need something to kind of counterbalance so it doesn't look like blazing. I guess I was wrong with that 30-minute estimate. But we're having fun. Can take our time with this little paint experiment of ours. Okay, so for the bench, I want warm color where the sun is hitting. So I'm going to go and grab some of that burnt sienna. Yellow ochre. Have a good one, Lyra. And see you on Tuesday. So I'm trying to paint in some like various background elements here while I'm waiting for the trees to finish drying. So I'm doing a couple of little twigs in the snow. And since I've already got the twig color on the brush, I can go in and try as smartly as I can to put in some of the twigs that are still attached to the ground, which I guess doesn't make them twigs. I'm not sure how twigs work as a definition. When does a twig become a twig? Is it a size thing? Because in my mind, a twig is a twig if it's fallen off of a tree. But I could be completely off base. gonna feel so nice to put the really strong light highlights on this tree now that I've got all the dark stuff placed in. So that's good. The trees over here seem just about dry enough to lay in some highlights. Now for the highlights, what do I need? I need yellow, gold, bright, warm sunshine colors, because everything we've been working in so far is cool colors, blues and greens, and even when I've gone into the warm colors like oranges and pinks and stuff, it's mostly been mixed with the blue. So now I'm going to mix really, really bold sunshine bright colors and use those as highlights, and hopefully that'll create a sense of the sun being over here and setting and all that good stuff.
The operation is about to begin. The universe holds its breath.
So I need to wash it off in the clean water. I'll mix in the lemon. Probably have a couple of different sections here for the lemon, and then the gold, and even the yellow ochre. Thank you, Worry Guts. Into these yellows, I'm also going to be mixing white. So go over here. Get some of that white as well for the absolute highlights. And then I can dip into brown and orange as well when needed. A little bit of that pink. I have a few different options that I can jump around to here, so I'm just developing them beforehand so that I can switch quickly between them as I go.
They all know much, but
Okay.
understand little.
And finally a really bright yellow, mostly white. I need a little paper towel. So I want to make sure that there's not a lot of water in the brush. Okay. Let's go. So excited to get all these golden colors. I need this to be a bit more light, desaturated, and pink. pretty magical, right? Once you start getting those highlights on there. It's very fun, especially to have that sort of implied light off screen. Really does a lot for the piece. It makes all the shadows also feel like they're glowing a lot more. Now these trees here are like in direct sunlight contact, so I need to push it all the way. Now this tree here is caught mostly in a shadow. The top of it is lit. But once it gets down here, it's shadowed, which works out really well anyway because it cuts a really nice silhouette. Now, we've gone mid-dark highlights, really blown it out with all this yellow. Now we need to travel back and even it out with a mid-tone again. So I'm going to take a lot of that warmth and just mute it slightly and also darken it. So we'll go back to the ochre and we'll mix in some green and some red. And as we know, that will neutralize into kind of like a muddy brownish gray. And I don't want to lose tone. Like, I don't want to lose saturation. I want to keep that flavor there, but also darkening the value. Because bringing some neutrality around it is going to make it feel a lot more vibrant. We'll lighten it up so we have a couple of different values we can work with. My goodness, is it 8:06 already? Wowzers, we've been going for 3 hours. Well, I suppose I should wrap this up and do the giveaway. Got some art to give away to somebody in chat today. But I'm just having so much fun working on this one. Okay, I'm gonna call this one done. And let's do the giveaway. So I'm gonna go over to, first of all, I'm going to let Twitter know early this time. So I feel like I didn't give them quite enough lead-in time. Bloopity bloopity bloop. It's time for an art giveaway. If you'd like to win some art, get into the chat right now. So just like before, I'm going to give everyone a keyword. I will paste it in the chat myself, as well as say it out loud, just because I know it can be tricky. Like, how do you spell that? Or like, you know, what is it you said? Because you sound like a mumbly nonsense fool. So I'll be sure to paste the word into the chat as well as say it. And then all you have to do is copy that word exactly as I typed it. And you will automatically be entered for a chance to win some art. So, and I do ship everywhere on Earth, so if you live outside of Earth, I am sorry, I can't quite afford that yet, but international I will do. It'll take a while to get to you, but it will get to you. Okay, I have tweeted. I'm going to the little thingy. All right. Lion Bite, thank you for gifting those subs to the community. Just like last time, people that are subscribed will have like a 2x modifier. So, just so you know. What the heck is it called? Nightbot. There we go. We love to see it. All right, it's giveaway time. Giveaway time. Let us go to the giveaway time. Okay, it's populating. It's populating all the folks. Oh, Evie, thank you. What a nice treat. Okay, we're doing keyword. Here we go. Hello, everyone. If you're just joining us right now for the giveaway, we're about to do it. I'm going to set this piece aside to dry. And once again, it will be a piece out of my sketchbook. We'll go through and I'll select what piece it's going to be. And since it's a page from the sketchbook, that means you're actually getting two pieces of art, technically. It'll be reversible, so there'll be something on either side. All right, so the keyword is going to be all right, the keyword is, I'm pasting it now. The keyword is painting. So if you're in the chat right now, all you have to do is write the word painting and you will be automatically entered to win this art that I am going to reach behind me and find. I'm going to go through my sketchbook while I wait for people to write the word painting, lowercase, into the chat. So many to choose from. Oh, I know the one that's going to be going out. All right, I have selected the page. Okay, I'm going to give it another minute or so. So if you're subscribed, you've got 2x luck, but everyone is eligible. And here is the page that I will be mailing out. One side is Mount Fuji, and the other side is this cute little, is it Teddy Ursa? I think it's Teddy Ursa in the snow. So two of my favorites. Page from my sketchbook, one of my faves. Painting, painting, painting. Okay. I am going to roll it in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. Reminder, type the word painting into chat right now for a chance to win. 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. Gizmo Non-Binary, congratulations on winning this piece of art. I'm going to go ahead and send you a whisper somehow. I always forget how whispers work. There we go. Okay, Gizmo, I'm sending you a whisper now with instructions on getting the art. All right, I have sent you the whisper. This piece of art is going to be on its way to you with these little fun illustrations that I believe we did both of these on stream before, which is very, very fun. So a nice little connection to the stream. And that is where we shall end for today. I'll put the painting that we did back in its... You can tell exactly where it goes because my desk is very messy. Can't wait to clean it up. All right, thank you so much, everyone, for stopping by today. It was a fantastic stream. I really love the painting that we did. I'll be back, as always, on Tuesday with Gouache Tuesdays. So if you're in the mood for more painting shenanigans, that is where it is going to be. So I hope you can join me for that. Please follow if you haven't followed. Subscribe if you would like to support my art journey. And I will see y'all on Tuesday.